Dr. Lakshmi, we are good to start.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Lakshmi, and on behalf of Yashoda Hospitals, I would like to welcome you all to the webinar today with our speaker, Dr. Santosh Kumar, Consultant Interventional Cardiologist from Yashoda Hospitals, Malakpet, to talk on the topic, role of newer anticoagulants in atrial fibrillation. As you all know, it is atrial fibrillation, which is one of the most common cardiac arrhythmia, which is present, and there are a number of treatment modalities present to treat. But the main focus is to prevent a brain stroke by preventing the formation of blood clot. So welcome you, sir, and let's discuss about the treatment present.
Dr. Santosh.
Hello, good evening.
Sir, please on your video camera. Please on your cam, sir.
Visible now?
Yes, sir, good to start.
Good evening, all of you. So today I am going to discuss about a very important topic in the management of atrial fibrillation patient, the role of novel oral anticoagulants. So traditionally we used to treat patients with atrial fibrillation for the prevention of stroke with oral anticoagulants since long. But till the advent of novel oral anticoagulants, we used to treat them with warfarin, that is vitamin K antagonist. So they used to have so many problems in managing patients with atrial fibrillation because we have to monitor them frequently, and a very narrow therapeutic window is there. So the bleeding risk is high if the patient's INR is above the therapeutic window. So we used to monitor frequently, and the patients used to face a lot of problems, and they used to face a lot of drug interactions also. So after the advent of novel anticoagulants, a lot of these issues are solved. So let's discuss about what is the benefit of novel oral anticoagulants in the management of AF patients. So as we all know that atrial fibrillation is the most common sustained cardiac arrhythmia, and it represents a global problem. And the atrial fibrillation incident increases as the patient's age increases, and particularly in patients with CKD, the AF incidence even higher. The absolute number of patients suffering with AF in Asia are substantially high compared to Western and European countries. So, atrial fibrillation, it confers a substantial risk of mortality and morbidity from stroke or systemic embolism, heart failure, cognitive impairment, poor quality of life, and public health and healthcare burden associated with atrial fibrillation is huge. That's why the management of AF is utmost important. So stroke prevention is the central to the management of atrial fibrillation, given the increased risk of stroke and embolism associated with this arrhythmia. So we used to treat earlier with vitamin K antagonist, but even though we used to frequently monitor, so those patients with VKA have poor quality of anticoagulation control. So today's clinician is faced with the difficult task of selecting a suitable oral anticoagulant for a patient with particular clinical profile, because out of the four novel oral anticoagulants, 3 of them are available in India. So out of them, which one to choose? That is a dilemma for any clinicians nowadays to treat patients with atrial fibrillation. So to selection of a particular NOVAC, so what we have to consider, we have to discuss. So if you broadly divide the anticoagulants between K antagonists, that is warfarin, and non-vitamin K oral anticoagulants, or otherwise now called as direct oral anticoagulants. So basics of coagulation pathway, everybody knows that both intrinsic and extrinsic pathways ultimately lead to factor 10 activation. Factor 10 activation leads to prothrombin and thrombin activation, that is 2A, which ultimately leads to fibrin formation. So these novel oral anticoagulants act on the extreme step of this coagulation pathway, that is on acting on factor 2A, that is thrombin. Dabigatran acts on factor 2. So the other novel anticoagulants, rivaroxaban, apixaban, and edoxaban, all these three act on factor 10. They are called factor 10A antagonists. And vitamin K, we know that it is a vitamin K dependent gamma carboxylation of factor 2, 7, 9, 10 are affected. So what were the main limitations with the vitamin K antagonist? So it is unpredictable response and very narrow therapeutic window, that is INR should be maintained between 2 and 3. It will be difficult to manage in this therapeutic window strictly with each person's response varies with the dose of warfarin. And routine coagulation monitoring is a must. It is a burden for the patient to frequently visit the hospitals, and slow onset and slow offset of action. And risk of intracranial bleeding. This is very important factor. We used to see a lot of patients who were on vitamin co-antagonist presenting with a large intracranial hemorrhage. Main advantage of this novel oral anticoagulant is the risk of intracranial bleeding, that is major intracranial bleeding, is very less. And there were numerous food interactions and drug interactions with the warfarin. So coming to the leading events on warfarin in Asian versus non-Asians. If you observe in all the major trials, 4 major trials, that is Relay trial for dabigatran, Rocket AF for rivaroxaban, Aristotle study for apixaban, Engage AF study for edoxaban. In all these studies, the patients who are on warfarin, if you compare, Asians are at higher risk of major bleeding. So that's why major bleeding, intracranial bleeding, all bleeding episodes. Anything you consider, the risk will be more in Asian persons. Bleeding risk is more in Asian persons with warfarin. That's why the benefit will be more with novel oral anticoagulants. And maintaining INR in those patients in all these 4 studies also difficult. Almost majority of trials, only 50% of the patients are in maintaining INR between 2 to 3. Warfarin discontinuation rate is also very high. So at least after 1.5 years, nearly 50% of patients who are advised on warfarin, they used to skip that medication. So FDA approved Novax, as we discussed, these 4 are available. But in Indian market, Idaxaban is not available. So up to from 1955 to 2009, we used to depend mainly on warfarin. And 2009, once the Relay data has come, so the benefit of dabigatran is documented. Later next year, rivaroxaban, then apixaban have came into clinical practice. So all these major trials have shown the benefit, efficacy. So almost all the strengths of dabigatran, that is 110 milligram BD and 150 milligram BD, both were tested in this study. So both were almost non-inferior to the warfarin. In the rivaroxaban, they studied 20 milligrams once daily of rivaroxaban versus warfarin. Apixaban study, Aristotle studied warfarin versus apixaban 5 milligrams BD. And coming to the results of these studies, major studies, the dabigatran has reduced significantly the stroke and systemic embolism. That is significantly less if you use 150 milligrams dose. Almost it is superior to the warfarin. Remaining all strengths, that is 110 milligram of dabigatran and all other studies, rivaroxaban, apixaban, they are non-inferior. Only 150 milligrams of dabigatran is superior to warfarin. Coming to intracranial hemorrhage, in this row, so if you observe, intracranial hemorrhage has dramatically reduced with the use of all these 3 drugs. And gastrointestinal bleeding is relatively high with the usage of rivaroxaban. Other two, dabigatran and apixaban, showed less incidence of GI bleeds. Somehow the GI bleeds are relatively high with rivaroxaban. And the renal clearance, this is also important, particularly when you face a patient with CKD. The renal clearance of dabigatran is nearly 80%. So in advanced stages of CKD, so the usage of dabigatran is not advisable. The rivaroxaban and apixaban, they have very minimal renal clearance. So they can be used at a lower strength in advanced CKD patients. So what is the integrated management of patients with atrial fibrillation? So first of all, if possible, we have to control the rate and rhythm control. These two are the main goals of the treatment. And we have to manage the precipitating factors, like we have to change the lifestyle modification and treatment of underlying cardiovascular disorders, that is hypertension control and diabetes control, any other comorbidities to be healed. And we have to assess the stroke risk. So if the stroke risk is high, based on the routinely followed CHATS VAS score, so if the risk is high, we have to start oral anticoagulation to prevent the risk of stroke. And we have to assess the heart rate control therapy we have to target, and ultimately assess the symptoms. If needed, antiarrhythmic drugs, cardioversion, catheter ablation, or very rarely AF surgery should be advised. The symptoms persist with pharmacotherapy. So how do we assess the risk of stroke or systemic embolism? We routinely follow this score. This is CHADS-2 VASC score. That is, patients with congestive heart failure will have a point of 1 point, hypertension 1 point, age above 75 years, elderly, 2 points will be given, diabetes 1 point, stroke, transient ischemic attack, thromboembolism 2 points, vascular disease 1 point, age 65 to 74 years 1 point, and female sex has got 1 point. So total score of 9. So any person with female more than 2 or male 2 or more, so we have to start oral anticoagulation. That is a class 1 indication. So simultaneously, we have to assess, when we are planning to start oral anticoagulation, we have to assess the bleeding risk of the patients, particularly in elderly patients, very frail patients, or CKD patients. We have to assess the bleeding risk also. So usually this as blood score we routinely follow. So that is, hypertension will be given if systolic BP more than 140 or diastolic more than 90, or the patient on two readings. If the BP recording is more than 140 by 90, it is given 1 point. Abnormal liver or renal function is given 1 each, and history of stroke 1, and bleeding, any previous major bleeding or anemia 1 point. Labile INR 1 point. Elderly 1, more than 65 years of age or frail condition, we have to give 1 mark. And usage of NSAIDs or alcohol usage more than 8 units per week, it is considered 1 point. So Has-Blood score more than 4 is very high bleeding risk, and 3 or more is intermediate risk. Efficacy endpoints of Novax versus warfarin, if you compare in Western and Asian population, so all the strengths of Novax, that is dabigatran 150 mg BD, dabigatran 110 mg BD, and rivaroxaban 20 mg once daily, and apixaban 5 mg twice daily. All these strengths have shown very good effect in reducing the stroke and systemic embolism, even better compared with the Western countries. So the risk of bleeding is also minimal with novel oral anticoagulants across all strengths. When you compare with Western population, Asians have shown very good results. The risk of myocardial infarction has increased a little bit in non-Asian population, but in Asian population, not much different. You use Novax or not. All-cause death. So Asians did very well with the Novax. Adherence to the Novax is also good, and compared to warfarin, the adherence with Novax is relatively better. Only thing is they have to be given twice a daily, except rivaroxaban. Coming to the Novax usage in a patients with coronary artery disease with atrial fibrillation. So AF patient in need of oral anticoagulation after acute coronary syndrome, we have to divide them into two things, whether the patient is high bleeding risk patient or low bleeding risk patient. So if bleeding risk is low compared to the risk of acute coronary syndrome or stent thrombosis, then we have to give triple therapy, that is dual antiplatelet therapy and oral anticoagulation for at least 3 to 6 months. Then till 1 year, so we have to give dual therapy, that is oral anticoagulation with single that is P2Y12 inhibitor. And after 12 months, we can continue only on oral anticoagulation monotherapy. In patients with high bleeding risk compared to the risk of bleeding risk is high compared to the risk of stent thrombosis, then we can cut short the triple therapy to less than 1 month. Then until 1 year dual therapy, and after 1 year a single drug of oral anticoagulation should be given. Similarly, atrial fibrillation patient in need of oral anticoagulation after elective stenting, same bleeding risk is low or bleeding risk is high. So at least 1 month of triple therapy, and if the bleeding risk is high, dual therapy should be cut short to 6 months. Pioneer AF PCA study. So patients undergoing PCA with stent placement and associated paroxysmal or persistent AF, they were divided into no aspirin group, rivaroxaban 2.5 mg twice daily with dual antiplatelet therapy, and dual antiplatelet therapy duration of 1, 6 or 12 months, and group 3 is vitamin K antagonist with dual antiplatelet therapy. So the low dose rivaroxaban plus P2Y12 inhibitor for 12 months or very low dose rivaroxaban plus DAPT for 1, 6 or 12 months was associated with lower rate of clinically significant bleeding than was the standard therapy with vitamin K antagonist plus DAPT for 1, 6 or 12 months. So low dose rivaroxaban with P2Y12 did better results are seen compared to warfarin. Dual PCI, the conclusion are among patients with atrial fibrillation who had undergone PCI, the risk of bleeding was lower among those who received dual therapy with dabigatran and a P2Y12 inhibitor than among those who received triple therapy with warf, P2Y12 and aspirin. So dual therapy was non-inferior to triple therapy with respect to the risk of thromboembolic event. Coming to the Novax in CKD. So patients with atrial fibrillation and CKD, we have to assess the stroke risk and bleeding risk. So usually these patients have increased stroke risk also compared to bleeding risk. So the benefit of starting oral anticoagulation is even higher in CKD patients. So up to vitamin K antagonists, creatinine clearance is less than 15 ml or end stage on renal replacement therapy. Vitamin K antagonist can be given. In some Western data, some case reports are there, some short reports where apixaban is used safely in patients on renal replacement therapy or very advanced CKD stage 5, that is 5 milligrams BD. But it is not indicated. So coming to the patients with normal creatinine clearance more than, stay up to stage 3 CKD, creatinine clearance more than 50, we can use 5 milligrams BD of apixaban or dabigatran 150 mg twice daily and rivaroxaban 20 milligrams OD. If the creatinine clearance is less than 50, that is 30 to 50 ml per minute, then apixaban should be given with the same strength dabigatran we have to consider whether to give low dose or not. And rivaroxaban 15 milligrams OD is advisable. Below 30, dabigatran is not advisable. So apixaban 2.5 milligrams BD or rivaroxaban 15 milligrams OD are considered. So management of non-valvular AF in atrial fibrillation. So briefly, we have to assess the stroke risk or systemic embolism risk with CHADS to VAS score. Patients with very low CHADS to VAS score, that is 0 or 1 with CHADS to VAS score, 0 in males and 1 in females. There is no need for any antithrombotic therapy. When patients with a score of 1 in male, novel oral anticoagulants should be considered. The score is 2 or more, either in male or female, we have to start novel oral anticoagulant. So which NOAC we have to pick up when we select in a particular patient? What factors we have to look? Age of the patient, whether he is very elderly or not, renal impairment is there or not, any bleeding risk, we have to assess the bleeding risk, prior stroke history, risk of MI, potential drug interactions. All this should be considered. So when already patient had previous ischemic stroke, if you want to reduce the risk of ischemic stroke, the dabigatran is the best drug. So, and rivaroxaban, it has most data in patients with prior stroke. Apixaban, reduction, very less major bleeding is the main important finding. So that's why it is preferred, particularly in elderly patients or high bleeding risk patients. Similarly, edoxaban also has shown very less major bleeding. So Asian patients, individual patient groups and characteristics, and how to treat. Asian patients, consider agents with reduced risk of intracranial hemorrhage, because in Asians the risk of bleeding is high. So we have to consider apixaban or dabigatran. Very elderly patients, apixaban is preferable because the risk of bleeding is less. When you start apixaban in very elderly patient, we have to consider two things. One is renal function and another thing is weight. If the renal function is abnormal, creatinine more than 1.5 or weight less than 60 kg, particularly very elderly patient above 80 years, then we should give half dose of the apixaban. That is 2.5 milligrams BD. Renal impairment patients, apixaban is preferable. Some reports are there of their use in dialysis patient dependent patients also. Previous gastrointestinal hemorrhage patients, apixaban or dabigatran 110 milligram are preferable. So high bleeding risk, that is has blood score 3 or more, we have to consider agents with a lower incidence of extracranial hemorrhage, like apixaban or dabigatran. Here we should not consider rivaroxaban. Recurrent stroke despite well-managed vitamin K antagonists. So in this group, dabigatran 150 mg, which has shown superior efficacy in preventing stroke or systemic embolism. So this is preferable to other drugs. And preference for low pill burden, once daily preparation can be given, that is rivaroxaban. Patient less likely to do well on vitamin K antagonists, avoid trial of warfarin and consider NOVAC upfront when deciding on OAC in a newly diagnosed patient. So recommendations, as we discussed, oral anticoagulation therapy to prevent thromboembolism is recommended for all male patients, male AF patients with CHADS to VAS score of 2 or more. That is class 1A indication. So in females, score of more than 2, that is 3 or more, is class 1 indication. Any disadvantages of novel oral anticoagulants? Dabigatran and apixaban to be given twice daily regimen and a very short half-life. So no assay method, and antidotes are available only for dabigatran. It is not available for in Indian market about for rivaroxaban and apixaban. The antidotes are not available at present, and usage of these novel oral anticoagulants in advanced renal failure is difficult. So, how to manage a serious bleeding on NOVAC patients? So first, we have to do mechanical compression and determine timing of last NOVAC dose. If the NOVAC dose is more than 24 hours, there is no need for reversal agent. Otherwise, we can utilize the reversal agent, particularly for patients on dabigatran. The idarucizumab is the presently available in Indian market also. 5 grams IV, 2 infusions of 2.5 grams to be given. So alternatively, we can give factor prothrombin complex concentrate or factor 7A can be given if idarucizumab is not available. So coming to the conclusions of NOVAC's role in atrial fibrillation patient, incidence of stroke or transient ischemic attack in patients with AF is even higher in Asian patients compared to Western. The risk of intracranial hemorrhage is also twofold higher in Asian population when warfarin was used. The 4 major trials comparing NOVAX with warfarin, the benefit that significant reduction of stroke or systemic embolism was seen with dabigatran 150 mg twice daily dosage only, with non-significant trends to lower rates of stroke or systemic embolism with other NOVAX strengths. So evidence suggests that NOVAX is better than warfarin in terms of efficacy and safety outcomes. There is no doubt. Intracranial hemorrhage is consistently lowered with all NOVAX. NOVAX is preferred in Asian population over warfarin due to poor INR control in Asian population and increased intracranial bleeding. Persistence and adherence is also better with NOVAX. So latest guidelines say that the use of NOVAX is considered as class 1A indication depending on the patient's stroke risk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for giving us insight on this topic. Now, if we can take a few questions from the audience. The first question is, what is the importance of reversal agents for NOAC?
Yeah, reversal agent is very important because nowadays the patients who are on novel anticoagulants has increased very much in the community. So they may present with any acute emergency, surgical emergency. They may land up in any acute surgical emergency where the patient might have taken the NOVAC within previous 12 hours. So they came to emergency and they need a, for example, intracranial hemorrhage. They need a surgery for that, any major bleeding or any acute abdominal surgery. So in that scenario, the bleeding risk will be more with the surgery. So we have to utilize that if the patient is on dabigatran, that reversal agent which is available is idarucizumab. We can give the patient idarucizumab and dabigatran is neutralized immediately, and we can take up for surgery, any emergency surgery if required. Or if there is major bleeding, then the further bleeding also will stop immediately. So that is the benefit of reversal agent. The other 2 agents, that is rivaroxaban and apixaban. So they are also FDA has approved one drug, andexanet. But in Indian market, it is not available now. So that's why in a patient who is very elderly and frail, who has very high has blood score, if you want to prefer one anticoagulant agent, then we feel safe to use dabigatran because the reversal agent is available. That will be the advantage of availability of reversal agent.
Okay. Next question, sir. Which NOAC is safe for patients in dialysis dependent?
So as of now, the guidelines say that only vitamin K antagonists are advisable in dialysis dependent patients, or a matter of stage 5 CKD patients also. So there is till now there is no evidence of benefit of this NOVAX in this group of patients, but very few patients series are present where the apixaban was safely utilized in dialysis dependent patients, but still it needs a further evidence also. till now, we have to use vitamin K antagonist, that is warfarin only.
Okay. So the last question before we end this session, sir. How do we monitor the anticoagulants in elderly patients?
So elderly patient as a group, they are at increased risk of falls and memory loss, and they have so many comorbidities. Usually they have CKD also. A lot of drug interactions will be there, and their bleeding risk will be very high. So that is the main reason. But because majority of elderly patients won't receive proper anticoagulation for the stroke prevention. A lot of physicians get afraid so to initiate anticoagulation. But if you calculate the stroke risk also, the stroke risk or systemic embolism risk also very high in these patients. If you utilize these novel oral anticoagulants in elderly patients, so the benefit of reducing the stroke risk outweighs the risk of bleeding. So that's why very elderly patients we can use these novel oral anticoagulants. Only thing is we have to monitor frequently their renal function. The renal function may worsen over time. So every 1 to 2 months we have to frequently monitor their kidney function and weight also. So if the bleeding risk increases in between, we may have to modify the dose or drug.
Okay. So thank you, sir, and thank you everyone for joining us onto today's webinar. And we do look forward for your active participation onto our next webinar as well. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Ananda.